thank you so much. Good evening, students. I'm so happy to see that many of you are attending the session. I know that it becomes difficult during the day. That's the reason why we opted for this time. So this is a presentation for LSK3701, Life Skills, Science and Technology Teaching in the Foundation Phase, and it's your support session, in terms of just getting used to the module site as well as the assignment that you're currently doing, which is the written one. Okay, and I forgot to say I am your lecturer, Dr. A Carrim, and you can email me on ecarrier1@unisa.ac.za for any further support after the session. So I'm sure when you log onto your module site, you are welcomed by the message, just, getting you to understand the purpose of this module, and also understanding, who your lecturer is and how you should contact me if you, experience any further problems. But most of the support is done on the module site. I'm sure you've noticed there's a lot of support added on the session on the module site, and I noticed that a lot of you are not participating. It could be because you're working and things like that, but it's really important for you to take the learning opportunities that are, there for you. Okay, so the main purpose of this module is basically to teach you relevant concepts and process skills related to science and technology, within the foundation phase curriculum. And also you're able to engage foundation phase learners to experiment, to discover and explore their world, using basic scientific processes. I'm sure you noticed the process skills. And also we will, you'll have a lot of activities, self-reflective practices that helps you understand the content, in the application-based format. And it also allows you to consider different contexts. And the resources are also, we give a lot of resources in terms of YouTube videos, as well as, like articles, whatever it is. There's a lot of additional resources that are within the study guide. If you read carefully, you'll notice that we are guiding you to a broader understanding of this module. Okay, so just looking at the assessment plan, I know most of you are aware of it. I have created orientation videos as well, but we are noticing that not everyone accesses these resources. So just as a reminder that it has assignment 1, which is your MCQ. It's noted as assessment on the module site, and that was also very important. And I noticed that most of you have submitted the assessment 1. But unfortunately, some were not able to submit. I hope whoever's in the session don't have a problem with that, because it was basically something that counts for your year mark, as well as counting for your exam mark entrance. Assignment 2 is currently open, which is essay type questions. And it also, expects you to apply the content, that you are reading in your study guide. I think assessment 1 would have been much easier than assessment 2. And you are going to be preparing at the same time for your online examination, which will take place in the September, October. No, I think most probably it would be within the October period, but it can go through to November as well. So your year mark counts 20% of your mark, and your exam mark will count 80%. Remember, your written assessment has a higher weighting than your assignment 1. So you need to work really hard for the assessment that's open right now. But just remember that it's also a preparation for your exam. And it's both compulsory. You only have 2 assessments, and that is important to do because it's basically counting for your year mark. I must repeat this. And if you don't use that opportunity, you might even lose that year mark, as well as lose the opportunity to write the exam. So that's how important it is. Okay, and this is something I always go through. I just want to remind you that LSK3701 is at NQF level 7, which means that a bulk of your, when questioning skills for whether it be your assignment, your exam questions are all set at NQF level, at level 6 and 5 and 6, where we expect you to apply the content, as in you are evaluating, you are creating. That's 50% of your questions. And there's a 40% weighting of level 3 and 4, which expects you to apply the knowledge and, the analyzing as well. In terms of remembering and understanding, we only basically questioning 10% of the paper or assignment, at that level. So you can imagine how much understanding you need to have of this module in order to pass. I know a lot of our students, because it's online based, you tend to just, assume that you can open your study guide on the day of the exam and just be able to, wing it. But in this case, you will find yourself in a very tough position. Remember, LSK3701 is, an exit module, and you will be tested at that level. So you need to have a good understanding of all the content in the study guide to be able to apply the content in the exam, as well as the current assignment as well. Students take for granted that, okay, we have access to resources, internet, and just, try to copy and paste certain things. But, our university system is very aware of, content that is generated by AI, with our Turnitin report that's on, as well as plagiarism. So please be aware that you need to really engage with the content and really do it by yourself, so that you gain the knowledge that is expected from you, and you're able to apply it in any, in your career. At the end of the day, that's what you're studying for. Okay, so this is the platform that you'll find, where you'll find your welcome message, and you'll find I find that a lot of students don't know how to use the module site. On the left side, there's a panel where you'll get your official study material. I'm sure you saw TAT 101. You see your study guide there as well. You have announcements, you have additional resources, and then the list goes on. As I create discussion forums or add any content within the learning units, you'll find it all on your left side bar. So please, I know sometimes it doesn't appear. You just have to, I think there's a arrow or something like that. It just depends. But I know some students are using their phones, and I'm not too sure if it shows on your side. Is there any student who can maybe come in here and just confirm that they can see the side panel?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, thank you. I was just checking on that. And then remember, when you do communicate, over email, please note that in terms of the POPI Act, you need to email from your My Life UNISA email. You'll notice that a lot of the lecturers, even myself, we won't reply if there's emails from Gmail accounts, because we're actually not allowed to do that. So that is just a reminder to you all. Okay, so I want you to check and read announcements weekly. There's a lot of things that I add on. I remind you of, assignments. If I do a presentation, I'll remind you to watch it, things like that. If I have a discussion forum, I'll remind you. So if you're not checking your announcements, you might miss out important information. And, obviously, with your busy schedules, and sometimes we all need reminders in life, just so we can, get back into it. And I know you have a lot of modules. My module is not the only module. So this is just a support tool for you. So do check and read announcements weekly. And also I wanted to remind you that there's I have students emailing which textbook to buy. This module, you only need your TAT letter 101, and any TAT letters that come through as well. And then your LSK 370 study guide is where all the content for your assignments and exam purposes will be found. So where do you find your learning material? Like I said, under official study material, they both are available there on under that bar. So I hope that you found it and you downloaded it and you are already working on assignment 2. I know you have basically just a month, maybe a few days more than a month to submit assessment 2. And I don't want to have any students, emailing me that they did not, complete assessment 2 and want an extension, because it won't be possible. And I'm sure you saw something called FAQs. As I get a lot of emails, and where I see a pattern of questions that students need clarity on, you will see that I update this throughout the year. So maybe before you email me regarding something admin related or anything that you feel a lot of students must be experiencing, maybe just click on FAQs. Not that you shouldn't email me, but you might find your answer under this as well. Especially if you're working through in the evening and you need an answer immediately. What is additional resources for? This is basically any additional support that I feel you need, or even if it's basic, like, how to use the module site, how to submit an assessment, especially rules for the examination, things like that. As the year goes, I'm constantly updating this as well. We also encourage to, translate, maybe the welcome message or the maybe a chat letter or whatever the case may be, whatever I've translated into different languages. Our country has 11 official languages. You will find some things translated just for you to understand things better. So keep checking on that as well, because I know everyone has a different home language and you might need support in that. So wherever possible, I am trying to update that as we go along. What is a student blog for? I'm sure you noticed that I created a small blog just to, build our community together. I know that, the online space is, very isolated, and sometimes we all feel like we are alone in this. So it's just to, get our students to introduce themselves and, it's so I can also learn about you guys. And also I look forward to learning about my students. So I enjoy reading it. And sometimes I don't get to reply to every student because we have so many students in this module. But I'm definitely reading it, and I, getting an idea of, whether my students are teaching, whether they, complete, studying, focusing on their studying only. So I know there's a lot of students, trying to multitask, work, family life. So I do get a better understanding of the type of students that are with us in this module. And then a lot of questions, and I have a number of questions where, students ask, do we have to participate in discussion forums? And my answer is yes. It is part of your learning opportunity and to help keep you motivated and working through the module thoroughly. So far, these are discussion forums that I created, where general student queries, where you can just ask a question, maybe related to your studies. If I have, even if it's admin related, and if it's something I can assist you with, I will respond. Assignment 2, guidance and support. I created this, so, in different sections. You just say if you have a problem with question 1, understanding it, or whatever the case may be, you can ask a question there and I'll respond. But do not share your answers, because remember, all the students can see it. It's just for clarity and further support from me. Learning Unit 1 activities. For each unit, we have 6 learning units, but for each learning unit, I created a discussion forum with each activity noted as the topics. I've even added the activity as well, so that it's ease of reference, so you can just, start answering it, because a lot of the times we learn from our, from our peers, and seeing how they understand something, and maybe we have a better way to understand that same activity. We're all learning, and we're constantly upgrading our skills. And some of our students are actually in teaching prep, so they know what works, what doesn't work, things like that. So it's a good way to participate and really reflect on our teaching and improve as we go along. Why should I watch the orientation to the module? I'm sure you've noticed I've created a TapiTube video where I'm just basically explaining, the module, what is expected. Sometimes if you don't watch the video, you might not realize the importance of completing assessments, and you come to the end of the year and you realize you don't have exam entrance. So please, students, you really need to keep updated and make sure that you read carefully and watch the presentations that are prepared for you as well. Okay, so where does my lecturer post about each learning unit? Please always check these sections on your module site. I created an orientation section, a learning unit once. Each learning unit has its own section, and you'll notice that I've added a lesson, I've added a forum. I've added a lot of information that will make it easier for you to, go through this module. So what I can say is that if you're not going to, continuously check these folders, you're going to miss out on important information that can help you, organize yourself. You can do, for this week, I'm going to do the orientation. For the next week, I'm going to do learning unit 1. And if you start from now, you'll really find yourself understanding the content well for the exam, and you'll actually be excited to write the exam because you'll know the content so well. You'll have done all the learning unit activities. You have, gone through the learning units thoroughly, and it gives you such insight that not only for your exam, but for your, for your teaching, you're able to use what you've learned and really, take what you've learned and put it into practice into the classroom. And remember, LSK3701 is also linked to teaching prep modules, where you'll find yourself doing lesson plans and presentations on this module. And if you have a good knowledge of this subject content, you'll really excel and really enjoy this module in your teaching prep as well related to this module. So this module is divided into 2 sections. Section A is your science education. Section B is technology education. And so learning unit 1 to 3 falls under section A, and learning unit 4 to 6 under section B. So it's a really interesting module, if you really take the time to understand the content and follow through from learning unit 1 to 6, you'll really see how it all aligns and integrates to each other. So this is just a basic outline. In learning unit 1, you learn about scientific literacy, you learn about the nature of science, how to learn science through inquiry, you learn about scientific concepts and how these concepts develop in students, and how conceptual change in learning of science also develops. And you also learn about the language and the learning of science. In learning unit 2, you go into how young learners' thinking process, is created in science, and you learn about the big ideas or the concepts. This is also in the CAPS document, the scientific knowledge, the habits of mind, habits of body, the science process skills, which are so important. Learning unit 2 is really an important, it's really an important component of this entire study guide. Learning unit 3 is just as important. It's talking about developing learning using the curriculum as a starting point, how you can approach teaching science to young learners, and the daily lesson planning, which is something you're going to do on a daily basis for inquiry-based team planning, and also assessment for science learning, which is of utmost importance in every grade. We're looking at learning unit 4, which is also defining key concepts. You'll also learn the problem-solving nature of technology, how to put the design process in action, as taught in technology education, the content areas for technology education, how to integrate language and mathematics in technology education. And the Learning Unit 5 is where you also will learn a lot of important key components and about the fourth industrial revolution, digital technology and digital childhood. You're looking at digital literacy and the 21st century skills, and also digital resources for the foundation phase, and the TPAC framework is also very important. Learning Unit 6 is also integrating, team plans, designing process skills, the team plan based on the stages of the design process, integration of the team plan based on those stages, and assessment in technology education. So this module is really touching on all the important things that you need to know to teach life skills, science, and technology in the foundation phase. So how should you go about studying your learning units? Online learning is not easy. You should not underestimate the time and effort involved. Once you have registered, please plan how you'll approach and complete this module. Remember, we are already sitting in June. So you need to, if you have not started already, please, you need to work on each learning unit. So you skim through, the unit, you draw on a basic mind map of the content. We've just touched on what we're going to learn about, just so you have an understanding of what does this learning unit. Imagine coming to the exam and I ask you a question of habits of body and you've never heard about this concept before. Now, how much time is it going to take you to go and understand it? And you have like 3 hours to write the exam, and there's mostly application questions. And I really, sometimes when we marking the content, I really am so disappointed to see that students don't really take the time to understand content that is so easy to understand and so easy to apply. But because of, whatever the case may be, not reading or not making the time, taking the time and effort to understand the content, it's really disappointing, because especially if you're at exit level, and just about to get your degree, and then you have one subject left that's keeping you from that. So make your own summary of every unit, do each activity and the self-reflection activity within each learning unit. As you work, build up your study and exam preparation file. So this study file will not be assessed, it's basically for yourself, but it will be extremely helpful and a valuable tool for you in completing your assignments, and a tool where you can revise for the examination and really feel prepared for the exam. And what the study file can contain, it's just basically a folder that you can create on your computer. I know nowadays we don't waste our money printing. We use everything online. So you can gather and compile additional or summarize information during the year. And as you work through the learning material, if you use the discussion forums, you can maybe see a student who really answered an activity well, or you can incorporate your understanding and really understand the activities and create mind maps, a summary of each learning unit. You can use your marked assignment, which you will obviously get maybe around August time, and your reflections on each learning unit, and applying the content to different themes. So, in the life skills caps document, you will see so many topics that you'll be doing in the classroom. So you can take the content that you're getting in the LSK3701 study guide and really, create lesson plans or apply it to different topic areas. So that's how you applying the content, and you reflecting on how you'll be able to, apply this knowledge in the workplace. And where relevant, any extra reading material taken from the internet, whether it be additional books or journals or whatever the case may be that is, encouraged in the study guide, please do go and try and read that information for broader understanding. Whether it not be tested in the assignment or the exam, at least it gives you that knowledge. Once we done studying, we don't really go back to the books or back to the textbooks, or this is knowledge that needs to stay with you for life, so that your teaching career can can take off in a very informed way, and you can, be one of those teachers who do it with a passion, and really give our students what they need, because they all deserve and need quality education. So a new vocabulary of words or glossary of new terms in your own words, that's also important for you to create. Compile and revise the contents of each learning unit to ensure that you achieve the learning outcomes of this module. So always keep the learning outcomes, with you, so that you know what you want to achieve at the end of each learning unit. So where is your assignments? Assessment 1 is, but it's obviously closed already on the 20th of May. I hope all of you submitted. And assessment 2, you'll find also on the left bar, where it's due on the 7th of July. You were able to download that assessment. I'm sure you see the PDF. So I'm sure all of you downloaded it and are working on it daily until you're ready to submit. I just want to highlight what problems we noticed with submissions. I really don't want any of our students to get a 0, for not submitting before the due date and time. So make sure that you do submit. Don't wait until the last minute. Late submissions are basically not accepted, and no emails, no submissions can be accepted over email. So even if you have a completed assignment and you submit it over email, unfortunately, I do get emails to say, please, just assist us. But the assessment plan has been, put on the system already from last year. And as lecturers, we're not allowed to just open and close the submission tab on our own. It's something that's done in the assignment section. And, because we communicate with you so early in the year, it's the students' responsibility to take note of due dates and make sure that they submit. So there's nothing I can do as a lecturer, especially because we open the assessment for so many, it's basically open for over 2 months, maybe even more, so that you have enough time to prepare and submit. So incorrect assignments, we have a lot of students saving, I know you have a lot of modules, so you tend to save the assignment as assignment 2 in your student number, and then you might upload an incorrect module submission, and that's how you get a 0. A lot of students who get 0 don't understand until I actually have to take a screenshot to say this is what we've received. So don't do this mistake. It's just a reminder. We all can make mistakes, and this is just a reminder that this mistake can happen, but it can be avoided if you save it with your module code. And before you upload, just make sure that it is the correct one that you are uploading. Corrupt files as well, sometimes as lecturers, we do try to fix the corrupt files, but unfortunately, it's not always possible, and students get 0 for this as well. Plagiarism, another factor that can affect your marks, as well as, this is something so common where students take the assignment, put it on ChatGPT, and expect answers, these superficial answers, and expect to get a pass or a distinction or whatever the case may be. Remember, especially for this module and for many other modules, we have a memo from AI, which will, be shared with markers and whoever is, assisting with the marking as well. And it's very easily detected if AI was used. So please do create and do your own answers. Don't rely on AI tools because there's so many students maybe doing the same as you, and it's easily detected on our system, as well as our Turnitin report, which is activated for this module as well. And it will clearly show us the percentage of your AI as well. So there is just a reminder to do your own work. Do not wait until the last day, an hour to upload assignments. I've noticed so many students, waiting until the last minute and then just a minute goes by and the system closes, or there can be a technical glitch and there's no time because it's the middle of, it's before 11 p.m. at night. There's no one to contact at UNISA to assist. There's no lecturer, there's no ICT module support. So please don't wait until the last day. I would suggest you, at least if you are going to wait for the last day, at least submit it in the morning. So if you have some technical issue, you're able to email someone that can respond to you. But what's even safer is to submit at least a few days before. Okay, this is just guidelines. To complete this assessment, you needed to refer to Learning Unit 1 to 6 in the study guide. The opening and closing dates are noted on the module site under Assessment 2. And Assessment 2 consists of a number of questions. I'm sure you noted there is question 1 to 4, but it has a lot of sub-questions. You need to read all your questions carefully, familiarize yourself with the content in the study guide. Do not attempt this assessment. I repeat, do not attempt this assessment if you have not gone through the content. It's a really a subject that integrates from Learning Unit 1 to 6. And if you're going to try and, do a question and then it needed integration of a lot of, different things, different understandings and the application of knowledge, you might miss something and not get full marks for that question or whatever the case may be. I think your practical teaching and research experience, will also help you in this assessment as well. And obviously engaging with the study material and the content and all of that. So read the content, understand, and reflect on it. Reflect on it well, because you don't want to sit with a situation where, sorry about that. Okay, so you don't want to sit with a situation where you, you really don't know how to reflect on it theoretically and practically before answering the question. So avoid copying content from the study guide. You need to apply yourself and rephrase and explain the information in your own words to show your understanding. Include relevant information. You'll notice that the assignment expects you to to apply to different themes, to different topics, and you need to show that application. Otherwise, you'll find yourself doing the entire assignment by getting a fail mark or really not performing well. And number your answers correctly. I can't emphasize this more. We have so many students who do assessments and then they don't number. I actually marked an assessment yesterday where there was no numbering. And it took me so long to try to understand, does the student need to get a 0 or is there some relevant content? And it was really difficult to mark. So you need to take responsibility to number your answers correctly so that you can get your allocated mark, for each question. And work systematically. So work out a scheme. Before you start answering a question, the first page of your submission should have a cover page. This is academia. You need to, start doing assessments at that level, especially, if you want to go into your honors and your, masters and even PhD, you need to make sure that the way you submit your assessments, follow the academic rules and, structure. So put your name, your student number, the relevant assessment information. You'll also need to add that declaration. So you also need to type your assessment. I know a lot of students ask, can we write the assessment? We prefer typing, especially because you in an online institution or Dell environment. It is important for you to have access to a computer or to whatever it may be where you can type and send in an assessment like that. But I do know there's some cases where you have to write your assessments, and it's something you can't control, or it's the situation that you're in. So please write neatly in pen only, write on one side of the paper only, and ensure that all the pages are arranged in the correct order. So when you're scanning and submitting the pages online, remember it must be one single PDF document. But I want to request all students to type your assignment. That's how your submission is expected. The honesty declaration must be included with your assessment. Do not send it separately. I've seen so many times where students send it separately, and it overrides your submission, your assessment. So you need to only send one single file, PDF file. So make sure it's saved as a PDF. You're not allowed to send Word documents. To ensure that you find and upload the correct assessment, like I advised earlier, save it with your student number, your module code, and the assignment number, so that you don't submit the incorrect. There's also times where students will submit the same module but assessment 1. So it's important to number your assessment as well. And check that you're submitting the correct file, because you don't want to receive a 0 even though you completed your assessment. Remember, no marks will be assigned in the case of incorrect files, like I mentioned earlier. And also, it's your responsibility to ensure that you upload the correct assessment. So even if you email me and say, ma'am, there is someone's mic is on there. You please switch off your mic. Okay, so you need to submit assessments well in advance. Like I mentioned, email submissions will not be accepted. Plagiarism or AI content as well, any sort, will not be tolerated. There's a disciplinary procedure that also goes on if we have sufficient proof, and also if you're going to, if it's going to be flagged, you're going to have to appear in the disciplinary hearing. So don't get yourself in that mess, because you won't want to experience that type of stress in your career and in your studies. So you will receive feedback on the assessment after the assessment has been, the results have been released. Okay, so now we get to assessment 2. I know that this assessment is, quite lengthy. It comprises of short essay questions and discussion type questions that require your active engagement. It requires practical experience, critical thinking, and it also, expects a reflective response from you as a student, not from AI, not from your, exactly word for word from your study guide. It really needs to see your understanding of the content. Okay, so just before we go into the questions, I just want to give you general support tips. Read each question carefully, underline the keywords, link your answer to foundation phase classroom practices and topics as per instruction. Always use the 6 learning units to guide your response. And focus on action. How would you teach, not just what a concept means? And avoid using copied examples. Interpret and create your own ideas. You have creative ideas, and you don't want to sit copying internet examples, and then there's 5 students or 10 students copying the same thing. Show your understanding, create your own examples, and really show your understanding. Okay, so the first one is define scientific literacy and discuss its significance in helping young learners understand the concept of bees and the importance in nature. So this question is asking you also to, how would you teach the basic principles of observing and understanding bees, such as their role in pollination and their habitats, to foster scientific literacy in the foundation phase? So it's a 5-mark question where you're going to firstly define scientific literacy. Remember, you need to first understand scientific literacy. Go into your study guide, understand, what scientific literacy means, being able to ask questions, collect evidence, explain findings, make informed decisions about a natural phenomena. It's so much, there's quite a bit of content that helps you understand that. And remember its importance, it's also asking you to discuss its significance. Just give me a
Dr. Carrim, you are muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so then we're looking at the significance. So if you look at it, it's asking you to define scientific literacy, but it's also asking you to discuss its significance in helping young learners understand the concept of bees and the importance in nature and all of that. So you need to really understand, how it helps learners understand bees and the role in pollination and nature, and how it nurtures the respect for this living organism and their contribution. So remember, when you're looking at guidance, to guide you in this question, you need to know how would you teach the basic principles of observing. And you'll basically, everyone will have a different answer, so I don't want to give too much into that, but you're going to let children observe maybe bees in a certain area. You can use storybooks. You can help them draw, describe the behavior, discuss how how bees help flowers and food grow, all of that. You can focus on active listening, questioning, observing, all of that. You need to really bring in all of that to get the 5 marks. So it's a quite a short question, in a way where it's not asking too much information, but you need to touch on the definition, its significance, basically the significance, the importance, and then you're going to also touch on how you would teach the basic principles of observing. Is everyone good with that question?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Yes,
now
we
we're
are.
looking at question 1.2. The concept of weather, and 1.2, the concept of weather and seasons is fundamental in the life skills curriculum. You need to demonstrate how would you use inquiry-based learning to teach learners about different weather patterns and their effects on daily life. And you also need to provide an example of an activity you would use. So remember, for 1.2, the key idea is, you need to look at it. That's why I said underline, weather and season. So a lot of students will go in the study guide, write some information, but forget that the concept that we're asking, for application is weather and season. So you need to keep that in mind. And also, how you would get children to explore and discover weather patterns themselves, or and the approach would be maybe using real weather data, consider charts, drawings, photos, whatever it may be, ask questions, open-ended questions. You have to consider how you're going to start off, like, what's the weather today? Let learners keep maybe weather journals, include role play or storytelling, But remember, everything you talk about, or providing examples and demonstration, you need to link it to to what you're teaching the learners about. So provide also a space maybe for group discussion, sharing findings. So it's very important that you really link your response to the concept of weather and seasons, especially pertaining to the different weather patterns and the effects on daily life. And you'll see, once you really engage with the content in the study guide, it will be very easy to answer this question. Is everyone good?
Yes, Professor, I'm fine.
Okay, we're looking at 1.3 now. Conceptual change is vital in correcting misconceptions about natural phenomena. Analyze how you would address common misconceptions about day and night in young learners using Carey's 2009 theory of conceptual change. So here you're looking at Carey's theory. Learners have naive ideas. Example, they think the sun moves around the earth, or whatever it may be. They think clouds are cotton wool, or whatever they their ideas are what they're observing, and they don't understand the scientific concepts as yet because they're so young. So you need to analyze how you would address the common misconception of day and night. So, you can start, you always need to start by listening. Don't ever ignore children's current ideas. That's how you can approach your teaching. And you can use models, consider using models. You need to consider which models you'll use to make them understand the day and night concept. You need to ask questions. And I don't want to give a lot of examples of the questions because then I'll have, if you're 60 in the group, all of you would probably use my same questions. So, just make sure that you consider, what type of questions can I ask them that will address their common misconceptions and, help the conceptual change. And this will help children replace incorrect ideas through experience and explanation. So, I would advise you to really think of models you can use, questions that you can use to make sure that you correct the misconceptions in a very easy going way. Because remember, you're working with young learners who, maybe they believe this for 5 years of their life, or for a few years of their life, and now you're trying to correct them. So you need to really make them understand it in a good way. Okay, so we're looking at 1.4. Language is a key tool in teaching science concepts, and you need to show how would you ensure that learners understand the concepts of healthy living, example, nutrition and hygiene, in a multilingual classroom with a focus on developing both their language and scientific understanding. This is a 10-mark question, so you really need to integrate, language and science. Think of gestures, visual aids, demonstrations, and remember, your answer must be must basically apply to healthy living. So you can't just decide, okay, let me I found something on the internet, let me copy and paste it here, but it has nothing to do with healthy living, and you're going to get a 0 because there's no application of knowledge as per instruction. So you're going to also think of how you can introduce maybe vocabulary words, now we're looking in a multilingual classroom, so you will have to bring the home language and English at this as well, and also create daily routines, maybe, and consider the concept of a healthy living. Use songs, use rhymes, use interactive games that also encourage, the language tool in teaching science concepts. And also think of labeling pictures or, talking about discussions or whatever it may be. Just make sure that you show that integration of language and science. Is everyone good with that? And remember, it's a 10-mark question. So make sure you answer it in a way that, that you really get that 10 marks. It's not like a superficial two-line answer and then there's no real integration, and we can't see that you're developing both a language and scientific understanding at the same time. I see there's a hand raised up, but I'm not too sure who it is. Is it only one person? Then you can go ahead.
Yes, it's Lerato CFP. You can ask your question, Lerato.
Yes, good evening, ma'am. How do you prefer us to write the answers? Do we write in point form or paragraph?
You know what? It's obviously a student's preference, but sometimes, when you structure it in a way that is easy to mark, sometimes you tend to put like half a page of, information, and it needs to have some space in between. So make sure if you if you notice the questions that I went through already, there's a little bit of stages in the questions. Like if we look at question 1, it's asking for the definition. So you give the definition. Then it's asking for the significance. Then you give the significance. So maybe you can have a space in between. And then it's asking you to say how you teach. So you can make headings. I think that's a nice way to write your work. Make headings and tackle the question section by section. So you know what? I've tackled everything the lecturer is asked in this question. I never missed one point, because sometimes students can just read the first, oh, let me just write something, and then you missed out a follow-up or reflective question at the end. If you understand what I'm saying. Is that have I clarified that, or do you need a further explanation?
Carrim, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so that's 1.4. And now we're looking at question 2. So question 2 is a case study. So you're going to basically, Lirato, is your hand up again? So
I think it's a
Mrs.
historic hand.
Okay, Ms. Nkosi's class, she teaches about plant growth by showing pictures on the board and talking about how seeds grow into plants. So the students listen, they take notes, and then they do a worksheet where they label the stages of the plant growth. So you're going to read this case study, and then you're going to answer the questions that follow. So if you look at the questions, it's basically telling you to reflect on this case study. So examine the problem. 2.1 tells you to examine the problems with this lesson when it comes to helping students develop their science process skills. How could the lesson be changed to let students actively engage and practice those skills? Refer to at least 2 process skills in your answer. So I think this is something that I want you all to, in this week, I want you to go read up on process skills, because process skills are very important for you to understand in this, in terms of observing, comparing, classifying, measuring, communicating, gathering and organizing information, inferring and predicting, forming hypotheses, separating variables. And if you don't go into each, you're not going to understand the process skills. So please do make sure to do that. And remember, now you're looking at, you're examining the problem, passive learning. Learners are not doing real science. And how can you fix this? You're going to think of adding real, exploring activities like maybe seed planting, then you're going to think of the process skills, at least 2, and you're going to you're going to basically refer to these 2 process skills and how the lesson could be changed to let students actively engage and practice those skills. So this question is 5 marks. And then you're going to 2.2, how does this lesson miss out on helping students build their understanding step by step, which is bootstrapping, and using new words they might not fully understand yet, placeholders. And you're also going to suggest ways to change the lesson to include these ideas. So, bootstrapping is building step by step, small activities at a time. Placeholders are using temporary words until the scientific terms are understood. So, when scientific terms are very complex, students can't understand. You need to build them up with placeholders where they can understand certain words before they can understand the scientific terms. So when you think of improvement tips, you're going to have to think of how can we improve this, what Ms. Nkosi is doing, you think of maybe, I don't know if it's stories, familiar words, introducing the correct terms as learners engage more deeply, asking questions, whatever the case may be. You're going to make sure that whatever suggestions you make, really focus on this theme, on this topic, because otherwise you're also not going to get the mark if you're just going to give general information. 2.3, recommend how this lesson could be improved to make students more curious and willing to think deeply, and what could Ms. Nkosi do differently to encourage these habits. So remember, habits of mind is something you also need to read. You're not going to even understand what habits of mind are if you're not going to actually go into your content, and really understand what it means for habits of body, because habits of body is something that it's basically integrated in an inquiry-based team plan, and you'll see integration activities that expect students to be persistent, manage impulsivity, listen with empathy, think flexibly, thinking about thinking, striving for accuracy. They must be able to question and pose problems, apply their past knowledge to new situations. You want them to think and communicate with clarity and precision. You also want them to gather data to, using their senses. You want them to create, imagine, and innovate. You also want them to respond with wonderment and awe, and take responsible risks and find humor in the work as well. We mustn't forget that they're young learners. We want them to think independently. We want them to remain open to continuous learning. So that's very important to understand before you answer that question, because you're going to really not answer this question well if you don't understand what habits of mind are. And then you can think of an activity that encourage curiosity and and reward them with deep thinking, questioning, reflection, whatever it may be. And how could this now 2.4 is how could the lesson be changed to get students physically involved, like using their hands and moving around to help them learn. So you need to relate activities that Masinkosi could add to improve their habits of body. Remember, habits of body are gross motor skills, fine motor skills, eye-hand coordination, physical role play, sensory experiences, cognitive and motor connection, where they integrate physical movement with learning. Play-based learning is also something that you can incorporate, playful art, movement activities. So it's really important for you to understand habits of mind, habits of body before you go and tackle these questions. I can't emphasize that enough. And you get learners maybe digging, you get them doing role play, you really get them using their hands, reinforcing learning, using their body sensors, all of that. Question 2.5 is develop a hands-on activity that would be more engaging than just listening and taking notes. So you're going to explain how this activity would help students learn better by doing things themselves. This is very important because, you also want to promote discovery, responsibility, and thinking. And, you want them to predict, you want them to observe, you want them to do all of these things. So you're really going to need to understand that content on hands-on activities and how you can, explain according to, remember, you need to relate to the case study. Do not give general answers that are not related to the case study and making whatever the question is. And if they're asking you to suggest or to explain how this activity would help students, relate it to the case study so we can see the application of knowledge and that you really reflected on the content and you didn't just go on the internet and try to answer questions and, give general information that doesn't really make sense, because anyone can just give general information. We're asking you to integrate whatever you've learned and, apply it to this case study and, improvement and reflecting as well. Is everyone good with that? All good? So we're going to question 3 now. You needed to use the topic plans to show how you would implement each phase of the 7-phase inquiry-based learning cycle in the grade R lesson on parts of a plant and their functions, and provide steps and examples for each phase. So remember, this is also an important thing that you need to understand. If you do not if you do not go and read up on the 7-phase inquiry-based learning cycle and all the phases, you're going to find yourself not answering this question correctly. We have a lot of students who try to, they try to complete this without understanding the 7 phases, and you'll see like really phases that don't even, we don't even know, so you get it all wrong. So just make sure that when you're thinking of the answering this question, it's a 14-mark question, you need to understand the phases. So, in terms of introduction, exploration, designing, it's in your study guide, conducting, conclusion, communication, deepening, where you're reflecting, all of that is very important. So it's 7 phases, and you'll see there's a whole table that actually gives you step by step how you can, start your the phase, and so it just shows that you are able to if you look at introduction, this is where you confront your learners with a problem. It's always important to connect with a real world situation. Someone's mic is on. You can give a scenario, whatever it is. Then exploration. This is where you connect real world situation to learners' prior knowledge. So, that's maybe where you can show a video. Get students to maybe read a short article, discussions, all of that. And then designing an investigation. This is where you can guide students to develop questions like, maybe, for example, what pollutants are in the pond, or where do these pollutants come from? You help them plan, things like that. But now you need to also look that the topic is plants. Make sure every phase is related to the topic that I've asked. If you're going to give me a lesson on weather for this question, you're going to get it completely wrong, a 0. So make sure you look at the topic, underline it, and say, this topic needs to be applied to the topic plans, and specifically the parts of the grade R lesson on the parts of a plant and their functions. So remember, underline that so you know. Conducting the investigation. This is where you focus on data collection. Maybe you can get students to, take students to a pond, or teach them how to use, maybe observe and write in their science journals. When you come to the conclusion, you can connect all the information, where they reflect. And yeah, you can ask them to reflect on why different groups might have had different results, or if you had an investigation. And, sometimes you can make them do presentations, posters, role play, whatever the case may be. And that's when you come to the presentation phase, where they can actually present their poster to the class, explain things, reflect on the inquiry process. And then that's when you're deepening and broadening, when you're reflecting, you can discuss questions and really understand the content and conclude very well. So remember, each phase is important, and you'll see in your career as a teacher, you're going to have to understand these 7 phases as well. So it will be a good way to to upgrade your skill in lesson planning. 3.2, you're going to briefly interpret how you incorporate the 4 domains of scientific understanding. Remember, the 4 domains of scientific understanding are conceptual domain. This is where learners gain conceptual knowledge regarding a topic. The nature of science. This is where we get learners to think about what scientific knowledge is and how it is developed by scientists. And then you look at the social domain, giving the students opportunity to talk to their groups about their understanding of the topic investigated. And the procedural domain, this is where learners need to develop the process skills during an inquiry, as well as the skill of using scientific knowledge. So remember, you have to take those 4 domains, and you're going to interpret it and how you would incorporate it into the plans, the topic plans, that lesson for grade R learners. So you need to include specific activities and strategies to gain that 4 marks. So this is also a very important question that you really need to focus on, and make sure these are applied to the topic plans, a lesson for grade R learners. If you do not apply to the topic plans, you will get a 0, because in the study guide, we already have the 4 domains there with the normal content that we have, but we want to see you apply it now to the specific topic. Question 3.3, decide how you would integrate creativity, mathematics, technology into a plants lesson to enhance learning for grade R learners. Again, important to note the word plants there, because you need to apply everything to that. So 3.3 is, looking at creativity. How can you integrate creativity into your lesson? How can you integrate maths into a plants activity, topic plans? And also, how can you bring in technology as well? So we want to see that you can integrate all of these subject areas into the plants lesson, because it's very important in a lesson plan that you integrate these different things, especially when it comes to our young learners, because we want them to really gain a broad understanding of the content. And this integration is very important in the foundation phase, especially in life skills. Okay, 3.4, we're looking at how you illustrate how you would guide grade R learners in creating a concept map. You'll see there is an example of concept maps in your study guide. Now you're going to try to get them to create a concept map on the parts of a plant, and you're going to discuss how this would support the understanding and communication of the concept. So remember, underline parts of a plant, apply it to that topic area if you want to get the 4 marks. So your central word will maybe be plant, you add branches, you get them to understand what the root is, all of that, labeling, linking to a function, and that's how you'll see you get a concept map that becomes a bigger concept map, because students are constantly learning as the lesson goes on. So that's 3.4, and you also need to discuss how this would support the understanding and communication of the concept. Now we're looking at question 4. I see we have 15 minutes left, but we will get done. So I just want to go through this last question. Apply the skills of the design process to develop an activity for learners to solve a problem of conserving energy in their daily lives. Justify how you would guide the learners through each stage of the design process, ensuring the activity is age appropriate for foundation phase learners. So remember, this is a very important question, where you now going into the technology component of this, where you really showing how you get students to investigate, how you get them to design, make, evaluate, and communicate, the ideas. And you also need to justify, how you would guide the learners through each stage of the design process, ensuring the activity is age appropriate for the foundation phase. So remember that the steps must be correct. You need to show how you're developing the activity, and also show how you justifying how you would guide the learners through each stage. And this is a 10-mark question, so it's something that you really need to put effort in to gain that full 10 marks. 4.2, you need to discuss how you would introduce technological literacy to foundation phase learners by using simple activities. So this is where you provide examples of how these activities can encourage creative thinking and problem solving in young learners. So remember, this is, you're going to think of, basically, this is not giving you a specific topic area. It's just asking you to how you would introduce technological literacy to a foundation phase learners by using simple activities. So remember, there is no topic area, but you need to provide examples. So every student will have different examples, because it's asking you to think of activities that can encourage creative thinking and problem solving. So it's 4 marks here. So at least maybe if you give at least 2 examples, it just depends how you're explaining it, if you'll get the complete 4 marks. And then you get to 4.3, which is asking you to design a checklist for assessing foundation phase learners' engagement in a simple design project. Include key areas such as problem identification, creativity in solutions, and teamwork. So you will see there's a lot of examples of how to create a checklist in your study guide as well. This is where if a student is designing a project, you need to ask them, did the learner identify a clear problem? Especially in foundation phase, it's sometimes not about the mark allocation. It's about, could they do that? Could they do that? Could they do that? Could they work as a group? Could they reflect? Could, whatever it is, so that they achieve the objective of a simple design project. So this doesn't give a specific topic, but it's asking you to think of a simple design project. So go into the CAPS document and see what kind of projects they're doing in the foundation phase. And that's where you're going to include key areas such as, the identification, the problem identification, creativity solutions while they're creating that project, and also include teamwork, and you create that checklist. Because in the foundation phase, you'll find yourself designing a lot of checklists for everything, because some students can, maybe they're more creative, but some can follow instructions better. So, and once you have that checklist, you can see how you can work with the student and, improve their skills in some that they haven't achieved in previous projects. Okay, and then you get to question 4.4. In your own words, differentiate between technological literacy and digital literacy in the context of foundation phase education. And this is where you're going to really, think of technological literacy. Read up on the study guide about technological literacy and digital literacy, and differentiate in a way that is within the context of the foundation phase education. So it needs to be in your own words, otherwise you're not going to achieve that 5 marks. A lot of students just copy and paste from the study guide and expect to get a full mark. And remember, we already have the study guide information in our memo, and we don't expect to see the exact same thing. We want to see the understanding. Obviously, you need to show understanding of that content, not of something that is not within the study guide. So just make sure it's in your own words. Okay, so we've reached the end of the assignment support and guidance. I hope that was helpful. Just before I end off, I also want to remind you of plagiarism. You reminded that it's unethical and unacceptable to hand in assessments that are not your own work. Plagiarism is taking someone else's ideas, their thoughts, their writings, and passing them off as your own. I know a lot of students ask me, should I have a bibliography? Should I have a reference list? But because you are taking the content and applying it in this assignment, there's no need to actually have a bibliography. It's about you taking the content, applying it to the different themes and the different topics and whatever the instruction gives you, and really showing your understanding and your application of knowledge. So remember, it's a serious academic offense that can result in you as a student being expelled, and it will really impact your standing with any other university for that matter. So acknowledge the original source. If you really are taking something word for word, which I don't expect in this assignment, then obviously you need to acknowledge it with a in-text citation, as well as your bibliography or whatever it is. Keep careful notes of every source you consult with, especially when you're doing that. Never copy and paste anything from the internet. Don't use the work of fellow students or even artificial intelligence applications. I have to say this today. During the exam period, we actually sitting in an exam room, and we can see the exact, when you submitting an exam, we can literally see if you took 5 minutes. If you submitted immediately, we're watching you submit a 3-hour paper in 15 minutes. And when we open the script, we can see it was just put in AI and given to us in that sense. Please, students, this is a really big risk you're taking for your own studies and your own career. Do not go to that level where you don't show no effort. It's really, really disappointing to see. So I'm just reminding you that whenever the university becomes aware of such malpractices, it will institute stern measures against you as a student. And when doing assessments, you must submit your own ideas in your own words. Like I explained throughout the presentation, you are expected to prepare this assignment on your own and submit it on your own as an individual assessment. It is unacceptable for you as a student to submit identical assignments as someone you're working with because you work together. This is regarded as copying, a form of plagiarism, and such assessments will not be marked because it is very likely that we will notice these. Our systems are very advanced and it's advancing every year. So please, the university may furthermore penalize or subject you to disciplinary proceedings, which you will not want to be part of. So this is just a reminder that it's a serious offense. Study guide, internet, or fellow students, and using AI tools can lead to disciplinary action. And also to end off, I just want to tell you that as a student, you need to take responsibility for your own learning, engage with the content, reflect on the knowledge, really critically engage, analyze, make meaning of it. So remember, be independent, be persistent, show that sense of responsibility and self-discipline. Be creative, especially in this module. You need to show creativity and discover new approaches for dealing with problems, and really take in all the content. It's really independent study, and make sure that you formulate your learning files so that you're well prepared for the exam and you feel that self-confidence to take on the exam well. Okay, so please do not wait for the last minute to submit your assignments to avoid technical errors. Like I said, in unforeseen circumstances, I would advise you to submit it a few days before, just in case you missed that. I know some students entered late. So keep in mind that you will be expected to apply your knowledge and skills gained in this module in the teaching practice component linked to this module. So everything you learn in this module is really going to help you in another module as well, and also in your teaching career. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks for listening. If there's any questions, we do have a few minutes. You're welcome to ask. And I hope the session really helped you. I know that it's a very stressful time to, be having maybe 5 or 6 modules at a time. And I'm just here to support you and get you through this module successfully.